Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. Today we have a manga review of chapter 897, Pecom's Cacao Island Escape Plan. And this was another super solid week. Of course, it's pretty difficult to top Katakuri's defeat, and I don't think this chapter managed that in any way, shape or form. But we are starting to tie up loose ends in a very exciting way. Jumping straight into it, I can't believe I didn't even think of this last week, but Sulong Pecoms is something I could not be more hyped for. And yeah, I know they stopped his transformation, but it would be the biggest tease in the universe if Oda didn't follow through with it after the entire discussion about it this chapter, as well as the absolutely awesome hints we saw of the form itself. Judging by Carrot's power-up, I think we can expect Pecoms to be quite the literal beast in combat. As opposed to Carrot's super speed, Pecom's transformation will more than likely focus on raw power, given that he is a lion. I can't wait to see his design, and I'm honestly more excited for this than I was to see Gear 4th Snake Man. Right now, I'm picturing Pecoms becoming a bit like Nekomamushi actually, except much more rabid and intimidating. Although I do think it would be a cool Oda twist if Pecoms had more of a weird transformation, as opposed to the sleek coolness of Carrot. And by weird, I just mean one of those left field designs that border on ugly when you first lay eyes on it, but grow on you super quickly. Also, I'd just like to point out that the whole Pedro thing was finally fleshed out. Back in Zou, Pedro joined the Sanji retrieval team as someone who could keep Pecoms in line, because he was familiar with his tendencies. Turns out that all of that was about his Sulong form. For whatever reason, Pedro was the only person, but not a person, a mink I guess, who could get through to him and stop him going on a rampage. So I didn't notice this the first time, but there is a callback to a joke at the end of last week where Luffy recognized Pecoms instantly, despite his oh-so-clever disguise. And I didn't point this out last week, but you know your disguise is rubbish when even Luffy sees through it. Remember, this is the man who failed to realize that Sogeking was in fact Usopp. So when Pecoms jumps out of the mirror to face the Big Mom pirates, they instantly recognize him, and he has this wonderful look of bewildered shock on his face. He probably worked really hard on this disguise, the poor lion turtle. But I do love that we might be able to see another Sulong form so soon in the series. I thought we'd have to wait until Wano because it was pretty heavily implied by Inuarashi that the minks are going to go all out against Kaido. Speaking of, there are only 3 minks in all of existence that I am more hyped to see in Sulong form than Pecoms. In precise order from least hyped to most hyped, they are Inuarashi Nekomamushi, and of course, Beppo. Although I highly doubt that Beppo is one of the minks who can actually control themselves in Sulong form, just judging by his personality. With all of this said, it's looking like Oven vs Pecoms might be a thing, which is a shame because I really wanted Sanji to battle it out with him. Diable Jumba vs Oven's heat powers sound like a matchup that was purposely set up. Plus, I think that a cook taking on an oven sounds fairly appropriate. There's still hope, I suppose, but it looks less likely after this chapter. But rather amazingly, it looks like Germa have finally made their move, clearing an escape route for Luffy and Sanji. And really, it's about time. I periodically forget that these guys were even in the arc at this point. But hey, here they are, and I think this is the moment where the Big Mom pirates will truly start to regret their actions. The Straw Hats and their allies are just a ragtag group of people, but the Germa are an entire nation with the technology and firepower capable of putting some serious hurt onto Big Mom's fleet. It's your classic Doflamingo situation, by which I mean the Big Mom pirates simply piss so many people off that they essentially crafted their own destruction. I mean, if they just let the wedding happen, Germa would be pursuing the Straw Hats along with them rather than becoming the key to their escape. I still don't really know how I feel about this whole situation though. The Germa minus Reiju are pretty terrible people who put Sanji through hell. I mean, imagine if we'd gotten Nami's flashback and then Arlong teamed up with the Straw Hats against Crocodile or something. It's just weird. Although actually, I guess that did kind of happen with Hachi. He was entirely complicit in Arlong's actions, and now he's loved by all. But it just feels different with the Germa, I don't know. They never really got any sort of redemption, they just got screwed over while trying to screw Sanji over. And yet I am just so excited to see them here, and can't wait for them to wreck face. Moving on, there was a great little understated moment this week with Sanji's first words to Luffy. He just kind of casually states, "So you won." And then even more casually, Luffy just goes, "Yep." The conversation is like he just took on some sort of no-name pirate. I love that Sanji doesn't even seem to care about how strong Katakuri was, because his faith in his captain was even stronger. It might have been nice if that faith was there in, say, Zou when we first got into this mess, But hey, better late than never. And in contrast, there is the Charlotte family, whose minds cannot even consider the possibility of Katakuri being beaten. I forget the name of the Charlotte sibling who first said this, but his first and foremost logical thought is that Luffy outwitted Katakuri and somehow managed to escape. And I cannot wait for the fallout, when someone finally discovers Katakuri's unconscious body. The shock on the faces of everybody in Totland will probably be more satisfying than seeing the decks of the world reactions. Actually, Charlotte Oven in particular had another interesting thought during this chapter when he realizes that Brule is being held hostage. He starts out by making the obvious brotherly statement that a gun has been pointed at his precious little sister, and then continues on to say, without a good reason, meaning that the gun pointing is fine given a good reason. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Charlotte family, and that is why so many siblings and associated pirates are defecting. Finally, let's touch on the cover story, and at first it wouldn't really seem like there's a lot to say. It's essentially introducing a member of the new giant warrior pirates, Stansen. So it's seemingly random, but this guy actually has some history in One Piece. He actually happened to be the giant that Rayleigh helped to save when the whole auction house shenaniganry on Sabaody took place. But more recently, a child version of Stansen was seen in Big Mom's flashback, and I must say, he looks pretty damn terrifying these days. It's amazing what a long beard can do to someone. So it looks like Harudin's story might just be an introduction to each of the members of his crew, which I'm perfectly okay with, because that is still more interesting than the stories of Leo or Cavendish. But that pretty much does it for chapter 897. If you enjoyed this video, then feel free to like, favorite, or subscribe, and please do comment with your thoughts on the chapter. This has been the Grand Line Review, and I'll see you next time.